Now, our next session is all about how AI will never replace content creators. And we are going to understand why human expertise, trust, and community, they matter more than ever as technology accelerates. Now, to tell you all about it, it's my absolute pleasure to welcome onto the stage Olivia Owens, Head of Creator Partnerships at Teachable, together with Mark Pendleton and Stefan Kunz. Ladies and gentlemen, let's please give them a very warm round of applause.
All right. Hello. I am so excited to be here in Dubai for the first time at the 1 Billion Follower Summit and to be joined with two amazing creators. My name is Olivia Owens, and I lead creator partnerships at Teachable, which is a platform that helps experts and businesses scale their impact in education through products like courses, coaching, and digital downloads. And today we're talking about why AI will never replace creators. And we have two amazing creators who run their businesses on Teachable here to talk us through what that looks like. So I'm going to give them each the opportunity to introduce themselves. We'll start with you, Mark.
Hi everyone, my name is Mark Pendleton. I come from Scotland. It's also my first time here in Dubai. I run Coffee Break Languages, and we help people around the world fit language learning into their life, not through textbooks and classrooms, but through the moments that they have in their life.
Amazing. And Stefan?
My name is Stefan Kunz. I come from Zurich. It's my second time in Dubai. Really excited to be back here. And I get to run a studio teaching people how to animate, doing animation for brands, and all sorts of creative stuff.
Beautiful. Now, before we get started, I want to get a sense of who we have in the room. So how many people in here identify as a creator themselves? Okay.
Nice.
And how many consider themselves to be an educator?
Woo!
Okay, beautiful. Okay, so Mark, I want to start with you. Copy Break Academy focuses on language learning in short, practical lessons. What did you discover about how adults actually acquire a new language through your own experience? And why is that something that AI-generated lessons can never replicate?
So for me, language learning and learning anything really is about taking little steps and looking at the world around you and noticing things. For me, language learning is about that whole idea of taking those individual lessons, the things that you learn every day when you're wandering around, you're noticing things around you in the country where the language that you're learning is spoken, perhaps, and noticing those things and taking that and processing that. Now, AI can certainly create a list of words or an explanation of a grammar topic, but it can't really accompany you on that journey of noticing things around you. And that idea of noticing and processing, and language learners basically notice things, process them, return to that, and do that over and over again. And it's something that AI cannot replicate.
Do you see your students using AI in conjunction with what they're learning with you, or is it playing a role at all in the work that you're doing?
Absolutely. It plays a role both in terms of what we create ourselves. We use AI in many ways to help us in the creative process. And likewise, with learners themselves, they're often using AI chatbots and that kind of thing to practice the language, to take their language skills to a different level, but do so in a way where they're practicing drills and they're repeating things. They're basically using the AI bots to interact in a way that's restricted because AI again won't react to the mistakes that they make. Perhaps the mistakes. There's a lovely expression in Italian called "sbagliando si impara," and "sbagliando si impara" means by making mistakes you learn, and any learner really needs to make those mistakes in order to learn. And yes, they will use AI chatbots to practice, but those mistakes will not be picked up.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And Stefan, for you, your work is rooted in animation and visual storytelling. What was hardest about turning something so intuitive and personal into something teachable? And why do you think that kind of creative growth can't be automated through AI?
That's a great question. Personally, I'm an autodidact. That means I teach myself a lot of things. I watch, as Mark described it, I watch everything around me and I try to learn from that. And so my work is inspired from a lot of different things. that creates the end product that I finish. And those animations are a product of 1,000 different decisions that I make. Making those decisions is the hardest part, and making decisions is not necessarily something that AI is good at. And so that's why I'm not worried that AI will replicate it. Plus, it's something that while I'm traveling on this path to creating something, I discover a lot of awesome things that I would do differently the next time. And so that process changes all the time, is very complex to teach people, but at the same time is also very enjoyable because it gives me another complexity to learn how to teach that to someone else.
Yeah, so it sounds like for both of you, the sandbox where students are able to make mistakes, get that feedback is really the thing that's kind of standing out at this point. You both have been, Mark, you've been doing this for almost 20 years. Stefan, I think you launched your first course, was it back in 2020?
And even before, like 2017 is when I first started teaching online.
Yeah, so this is not a new thing for either of you, but we are seeing the conversation about AI start to pick up and start to develop. So I'm curious, like, what are some of the most meaningful shifts that you've seen in your audience as this conversation grows, and how are you thinking about your business with that in mind?
Do you want to
okay. Yeah. I think one of the biggest shifts that we've noticed among our learners is that they're looking less for hacks on how to learn and looking more for guidance. And that guidance is something that, as a teacher, I can give to my learners. And all our teachers on our courses are able to guide the learners through that learning process. And instead of the hacks that they might have previously looked for, they want that progression, and they want the continuity of the course that the course creator can lead.
Yeah. How about you, Stefan?
For me, it takes the whole conversation into a different direction. I feel like a lot of my students are worried that if they start something like learning a new skill, that it's not going to be needed anymore in like 5 years or 2 years or even just 6 months. And so the first question that I always get is like, is it something that's still going to be relevant in the next time? And I always counter that argument with like, do you think you're going to enjoy doing this? Because if you're enjoying this, like, I don't want to learn a skill that I do not want to practice. And so for me, animation has been something I've been curious about. I wanted to learn. It's a field that is really vast and open, and I can learn a lot about it. And so that's why I feel like I'm not scared about AI. AI will replace a couple of the processes or makes things easier, but it's going to be helpful in the long run. Like, we would never think about the internet like in a negative way, or digital cameras in a negative way today. Like, we all have phones, we love like taking out our phones, but earlier, like, photographers were worried about that. Even painters were worried about photography. So it's kind of like, now we have the opportunity to do so much. And so for me, the conversation is to steer people into, do you enjoy doing that? Do you want to learn that skill? That's the important part.
Yeah, and I think a question that I often get from creators who haven't launched courses yet or started there, but they are doing a ton of education on social is, how do I differentiate the content that's going on my social channels versus what's in my course? Has AI impacted your content strategy in any way, or your curriculum strategy in any way, or have you kind of been able to keep the same process?
We have certainly with our content strategy, we've been using AI to build that strategy and to create a wider variety of content, and perhaps be able to address more learners in a way that fits them. But in terms of the strategy of, sorry.
Your curriculum strategy, has that adjusted?
With our curriculum, I think one of the difficult things is knowing how much to give a learner, because a learner can, again, get anything they want from AI, but sometimes getting too much is counterproductive, and therefore they need to be able to know the decisions as to make, I need that bit, but I don't need that bit. And so with the curriculum that we create, we've been changing that to ensure that we're delivering it just enough, and at the right point and at the right moment. So what they need to learn, why they need to learn it, and when they need to learn it in that rhythm.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. How about you?
For me, it's using AI to kind of like give a lot of different opportunities to learn in different ways. Like I'm a visual learner. Like you need to show me something so that I understand it. Other people, they need to read it. Like if you give me a text, I do not understand anything. And so for others, it's instructions. For others, it's audio. It's all these different cues, and AI enables me to be able to give like transcriptions or detailed instructions and all of these things that I was not able to do before. I'm able to do now. And before I had to have a team. Then when I went back solo, I needed to be able to do more, but I couldn't. And so with AI, it just enabled me to have transcriptions, have descriptions, all of those things.
Yes. I'm also curious about if it's impacted your ability to teach at scale. I think you were speaking a bit to that there in the sense that you're able to deliver in different formats and different models. What are you hearing from your students at this point of what they're really hungry for, what they feel like they're lacking, or what's really working well?
Yeah.
So one of the things that our students were asking for was exactly the AI bot, the chat bot. They wanted to do that practice and, in a sense, not be scared of making the mistakes when talking to a real person, because the AI bot won't laugh at them, ultimately. So that is something that we have been working on. We developed an AI bot which would allow the students to practice what they were learning within our courses and do so in a way that is still very much coffee break, because with coffee break we try to limit the learning, we try to make it in small steps, we try to make everything approachable and everything manageable for the learner. So with the AI bot that we created, we not only obviously gave the content of our courses, but also a little bit of the background of what Coffee Break is about. Because if a learner has been listening to one of our podcasts or taking one of our courses, they'll know certain aspects about the presenters of the course. For example, we have Francesca, our Italian teacher. There was a very famous lesson within Coffee Break Italian where Francesca was talking about what you put in a pizza. And we were looking at masculine nouns, so I was suggesting prosciutto, ham, perhaps formaggio, cheese, and then I said pollo, chicken, and Francesca said, mamma mia, ma non si mette il pollo sulla pizza, you don't put chicken on a pizza. And so everyone who's done Coffee Break Italian knows about chicken on a pizza. So we actually programmed our AI bots to know how to react when someone asks, should you put chicken on a pizza? So basically taking that element of the lore, of the story, of what we do, putting that into the bots, that's really helped the learners understand that these bots are not just a bot that can react to what they're asking. They're going much further than that.
Yeah, and I feel like I love the concept of adding your lore into your AI chatbot, but I also think that's what differentiates that particular chatbot from what they could get from anywhere else. So it still feels like they're a part of the coffee break world and ecosystem. I love that. How about you, Stefan?
For me, scaling was never about just the curriculum, because I've always built my courses in the sense of do it with a few people, see how they react, do it with more people, see how they react and what kind of feedback you get, and then scale it to a size where it's like, at some point, it's just not going to change. Like the curriculum is always going to stay the same. And so for me, the one thing that AI has really been helpful with is using that for marketing strategy, like being able to send out newsletters, to send out more direct messages, to use that in like DMs and also automated chats, just to create a flow that works perfectly. And then even transcribing my lessons and then asking AI to analyze kind of like, is the structure great? Does it help? Is there anything that I can improve? And then I've experienced both sides where it's like, I've improved it so much that it was great, but like all the students didn't follow anymore and they hated it. So I had to revert back to something different. And so it always tells me like, yes, follow your gut instinct, see what you can improve, because there's always room to improve, but then use all these tools to kind of like do something that you couldn't have done before and see whether or not it's going to be helpful or not. Yeah.
I love it. I think going into every single year, there is discourse about, are courses dead? Is it the end of courses? And I'm curious for you guys, we're going into 2026. What are your thoughts on courses? Are they still working? Is it something that a creator who maybe hasn't started today could still get started with?
Totally. I think actually AI has helped because it's in a sense, information is everywhere. Everyone can access information. Information is no longer the differentiator. Yeah. In a sense, AI has raised the bar for creators to make their courses more personal. And anyone who has learned anything can teach it. Anyone who has learned anything knows the process that they have gone through in each step that they've taken. I was walking around Dubai Marina yesterday, and I've only touched the very, very basics of Arabic, and I have learned a little bit of the Arabic script, and I was so chuffed, as we say in Scotland. I was very pleased to see that I read Dubai in Arabic on a sign, and I thought, wow, I have actually learned something. And that little bit of learning is something that I have experienced, and therefore I can put that into my course. So anyone thinking about creating a course can do exactly that, put their learned experience into that course. And in a sense, it's the perfect year to start, because the information part, that's the easy bit. What really matters is that learned experience, that lived experience that you can then put into your course and make it much more personal, make it something that a learner can identify with and can improve in that way.
That joy that you just described, that moment when you actually saw a word and you're like, oh, I recognize this. That is kind of like the beauty of teaching, is like when you get to see people that kind of see like, oh, I can do this. Like, I can now do this animation. Like, I've had students who said like, oh, I cannot draw. And then I'm like, no, but you can learn to draw. And if you do it often enough, you'll get there. And then seeing like people, their results, it's like a transformation. And every transformation, people want to see transformation. So that's why I'm like, this is the best year. Like, the best time to start teaching would have been like 5 years ago. Now is still the best time. The second best time is now. And so I would recommend anyone who sits here, who listens to this talk, is definitely start, because if you have something that you've learned, and I'm sure that everyone here has a skill in something, whether it's maybe making coffee, is it maybe making like pottery, teaching like a language, we all know something. And I believe that that could be taught to someone else, and someone else can get that feeling of like, oh, I can do that too.
It's exactly that. Some people put their hand up as teachers in the room, and I would say that everyone in the room can be a teacher, because no matter what you've done, everyone has some kind of skill, some kind of something that they're passionate about, and it's that passion that any teacher wants to convey and to convert a learner with.
And it used to be like this, like before like 100 of years ago, we had always, like, we taught everything to the next generation. Like, it'd usually be the father to the son, or like someone else, but it's always been like that. With the internet, with online, we've just been able to do it in the masses and learn exactly specific things that we want to learn, so driven by our curiosity, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think just the access to so much information at this point is overwhelming, and I think so often creators or consumers are connecting with a creator that's coming to the table with either an energy that they align with, or the way they teach is aligned with how they want to learn. And so I think that's what's going to edge out creators as well, is you've just got to find your people. And so I think for the people who are thinking about 2026 is the year that I want to finally do the course, when you think about marketing a course today, what does that look like? How are you guys marketing your courses? How are you reaching your students?
It's an interesting question, because it's something that we've been doing a little bit differently over the past year, in a sense, because of AI. We have consciously stopped doing as much social content. We've stopped doing as much outward-facing content to attract new customers who may not necessarily be our right customer, in a sense. What we've tried to do is lean in much more to being ourselves and to representing who we are, and that allowing those learners who find us to identify with the personalities, with the teaching style, with the concepts that we're teaching, and with the methods that we use. So that's been our kind of big moves this year.
And what channels are you focused on?
So we're focusing now on Instagram and YouTube, with a little less on Facebook.
Okay, perfect. And you have
TikToking,
your
yeah.
podcast is a big channel for you as well,
Yeah, of
right?
course. Sorry. Yeah, we it's so big. I kind of I forget to mention it. Yeah, we do a lot of podcasts. We have 25, 30 podcasts or something like that across different languages, and that is our main attrition channel. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And how about you, Stefan?
I use mostly or try to create viral content that goes viral and then capitalize that through an automation on the back end. So through comments saying like, if you want to learn this, what you just saw, then comment this word. And through a partner, I can get people then to interact with me, get a feel of what that would feel like. And through that connection, get people to either sign up for a wait list, for an email marketing, or just something else, or like a free course, and then get into the whole thing. Like they need to get to know you first before you ask them out to marry you or something like that. Like, don't go on a first date and then straight ask the question. Like, you need to slow it down.
Yes, we're dating in 2026.
Exactly.
I'm curious. I think a lot of creators I talk to as well question what longevity and sustainability looks like in this space. Brand deals continue to be the number one way that most creators are monetizing. And a lot of the conversation that I have is the diversification of your revenue is mission critical if you want to have a long lasting space in this industry. I'm curious how you both have achieved longevity up until this point and what you think is going to continue to carry you through.
We've kept turning up. Every year, adapting a little bit. We started with a podcast in 2006, in the days when you had to hand code podcast feeds and everything like that. And we have tried to adapt every year a little bit. But I think the importance of turning up and continuing to do what it is and adapting in every way is vital. Yeah.
For me, it's been a journey to learn kind of like starting with brand deals, doing like work for hire service for other companies. But then when I learned how much you can make with teaching, I definitely changed the way I view things. And so right now, I think more than 50 to 60% of my revenue comes from teaching. And I always believe that where you put time and effort in, that's where you're going to reap the most. And so for me, like, it's worth it to put it into not all the different baskets, like not trying to do everything a little bit, because then you're probably just going to scratch the surface. But if you really focus on something, like I used to do it on digital products, and that went really well. And then I shifted to teaching, and that went really well. And I don't believe in passive income as a lot of people do. Like, you really need to invest and put time and effort in to really also get the thing out again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious, I feel like oftentimes creators overthink what you have to put into your course to add value to your students. I think they're like, okay, I've got to put every single thing I know about this topic in. And I'm curious, in actual practice, like, what have you seen in your curriculum actually drive the impact or the outcomes or the quick kind of unlocks for your students?
Well, for me, in this space, it's been kind of like shifting back to less is more. Going to what you said at the beginning is like, we tend to overload people with information. And what I see in practice in the real world is that my students don't finish all the courses, which is a big problem. And so I try, or I've learned the best way to also sell a course is to show transformation. So the best example to see that is kind of like a before and after. So like, if I want a six-pack, like, I need to go and work to get that. And it's not going to just come overnight. But selling that to someone, like, you sell that through I can show you how to get there. And I've many examples of how I've achieved this. And so for me, this way has been the best way to actually tell people or sell people courses. And so sell them an outcome, not necessarily a general idea. Like, I can teach you animation, but animation is huge. It could be a 3-year degree, but I can teach you that in 6 weeks or 6 days or 3 days. And so sometimes, like, the shorter things are helpful for people to start and then kind of like get into it more, getting to routine habits and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. I would totally agree. We also try to ensure that we're giving the guidance through the course and the framing of exactly how they should take the course, and working through, depending on what kind of speed they want to work through the course, we want to guide them through those steps. So we put in quite a bit of structuring and scaffolding for the learners so that they can follow the course at their pace and know what point they're supposed to be at a given time, but also give them the additional materials to help them to consolidate a particular point that they've learned early on. They want to pick that back up later. And some optional materials within the course, but definitely not overwhelming them with 20 different aspects in one lesson. Is too dangerous.
Too dangerous. And I just think our attention spans are not what they once were. And I think people also need that first kind of layer of confidence to keep going, right? It's like, okay, I was able to accomplish this little thing. Now I've increased my level of self-belief that I could go for the harder challenge or the next level, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Quick wins.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So we are in the beginning of the year. I'm curious for both of your businesses, what are you most excited about for 2026?
I think, first of all, what I am most looking forward to in my business for 2026 is the fact that I still get to be a language learner. And that might sound strange because it's got nothing to do with my business, but in actual fact, it's got everything to do with my business. If I continue to be learning little bits of Arabic for a trip to Dubai or whatever language I'm going to be taking next, that is continuing my understanding of the learning process. And that means that I can transfer that through to my learners in whatever course we design next. From the point of view of the business in a greater sense, I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do to help our learners sort of separate out all the noise and really focus on what they need to learn and how they need to learn it and when they need to learn it. Again, they can get all the information they want at the touch of a button, and they don't necessarily know when to use that and how to use that. In a sense, we often say for language learning, it's similar to when machine translation began and everyone was worried that, oh, you're not going to need to learn a language anymore because machines can translate. And now that same narrative is shared about AI. But actually, for language, it's about communication, and nothing will ever replace that communication between one person and another person, and how that communication works. So I'm just excited about continuing to do what we love doing every day.
And to be a student yourself, I love
Absolutely,
it.
yeah.
How about you, Stefan?
So for me, your answer just made me realize what it was. Curiosity is a huge part. Like, as an animator, as an illustrator, as a designer, like, you need to be curious to create new things. And so I'm always excited for the next thing they'll create. And as a general thought, always, like, I think of this coming year, as a challenge of, like, there are certain aspects in my business that I want to learn more about, to fix or to get better at. And that means I need to understand how to do that better. And so understanding how I can teach better, teach maybe new courses, maybe smaller courses, maybe other courses, and then come up with new strategy, new ideas. Also, like, whenever I launch a course, like, I've launched over 20 plus courses, and every launch I've always changed it up. So I've learned so many new things from all these different launches, and that has helped me to kind of, like, understand better how teaching and, like, creating courses, launching courses works. And maybe at some point this year, I'll teach people how to teach courses.
Yeah, I think it's interesting for both of you, that level of curiosity or wanting to be the learner yourself. I feel like my TikTok algorithm is all about, like, people building their own personal curriculums and wanting to go deeper on topics and kind of that nostalgia for school. So it feels like from the consumer side, there's also that hunger for the exact kind of product and solution that you both create. We are about to wrap up. I want to end with one last question for the person in the audience who's like, okay, this year's the year I'm going to do it. What's an actionable kind of plan that you could give them for launching their first course in 2026?
So for me, my recommendation to you guys is to think about just what this course could look like. And that means just one page, an image, a outcome, a, like, solution, and then just somewhere where people can put in their email address. It's super simple. If that doesn't work, then you need to rework on the idea of your course. But if that does work, you can then start building your course. Because I know from a fact that a lot of creators start already thinking exactly like the curriculum, like start recording videos. And like if you think about it, it's a huge process. But if you think about like just the idea, like the concept of your course, and then you write down or put down an email like list where they can sign up for a wait list, it will tell you so much more whether people are interested or not and give you a proof of concept.
It also gives you the urgency you need to actually record the videos once you have the people who are actually interested.
Exactly.
So that always helps as well. How about for you, Mark?
Totally agree that proof of concept is absolutely vital. And I think once you've done that, make sure that the course that you're starting with is not the 400 lesson, everything you ever need to know about one thing. Yeah. It's a 4 lesson, this is what you need to know about that, and then you've got all the possibilities for every other course that you then create on the back of that.
Yeah. And it gives you the opportunity to edit, adjust, and understand. I think to your point, a lot of what you talked about was like the next piece of content when. Once the students take that first piece, the additional questions that they have, their curiosities is going to help inform where should I go next, what should my next product be. That is all the time that we have for today. If the audience wants to stay in touch with you, what is the best way to connect?
Head to coffeebreaklanguages.com, or you can scan the QR code there and visit our Coffee Break Academy.
Amazing.
And for me, on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, wherever you want, I'm there.
Beautiful. And these QR codes take you to their courses. So if you want to language learn, if you want to learn animation, you can learn with these two. And thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you.